My packages are gone. This can't be happening again, I bellowed, my voice echoing across the empty porch of my modest two-bedroom house in Pinewood Estates. It was a crisp Tuesday afternoon, the kind where the sun bathes the neighborhood. In golden light, kids ride scooters down the sidewalk, and you'd expect nothing but peace. Instead, I stood frozen, staring at the barren concrete where my latest delivery was supposed to be. My phone buzzed in my hand, the tracking app smugly declaring, delivered at 1:45 p.m. It was 4:15 p.m. now, and there wasn't a single cardboard box in sight. This wasn't just any package, it was a high-end gaming headset and a controller I'd scrimped and saved for over 3 months, working extra freelance gigs as a video editor. I could practically feel the weight of that headset, hear the crisp audio, and see myself dominating my next streaming session. But now, nothing. Just an empty porch and a sinking feeling in my gut. This wasn't the first time I'd been robbed blind. Over the past 2 months, 4 packages had vanished from my doorstep like they'd sprouted legs and walked off. The first was a set of LED lights for my streaming setup, gone. The second, a book on video editing technique spoof. The third, a replacement phone charger vanquished. And now, my prized gaming gear. I was beyond furious, I was haunted. Pinewood Estates was supposed to be a safe haven, a suburban dream where I'd moved last year to escape the chaos of city life. I'd traded honking horns and sketchy alleys for manicured lawns and nosy neighbors, thinking I'd finally found stability. But someone in this picture-perfect neighborhood was a thief. And they were turning my dream into a nightmare. Pinewood wasn't just any suburb. It was ruled by the iron grip of the Homeowners Association, led by the infamous Karen. If you've ever lived in an HOA neighborhood, you know the type. Mid-40s, always in yoga pants, armed with a clipboard in a superiority complex. Karen was the queen bee of Pinewood, patrolling the streets like a sheriff in a bad western. Her full name was Karen Margaret Thompson, but nobody dared use IT. Was just Karen. The woman who'd fine you $50 for leaving your garage door open too long or lecture you about your mailbox's unacceptable shade of beige. Had my run-ins with her before. 6 months ago, she'd banged on my door at 8 a.m. because my recycling bin was improperly sorted. Another time, she emailed the entire neighborhood, shaming me for parking my car too close to the curb. Everyone had a Karen story. My neighbor Mike, a laid-back graphic designer, once got a written warning for flying a tacky flag. During football season, Sarah, a mom down the street, was scolded for letting her kids draw chalk art on the sidewalk. Karen was everywhere, always watching, always judging. At first, I didn't want to believe she could be the thief. Stealing packages seemed petty, too criminal, for someone who prided herself on upholding community standards. But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. Karen had access to everyone's schedules. She knew when we were at work, when deliveries arrived, even when the mail carrier swung by. She'd once bragged at an HOA meeting about her neighborhood watch app, which tracked delivery trucks. Was she using it to plan her heists? The thought sent a chill down my spine. I wasn't alone in my suspicions, either. Last weekend, over a couple of beers in Mike's backyard, he'd mentioned his own missing packages, a set of art supplies and a hard drive. It's like someone's got eyes on our porches, he'd said, his brow furrowed. I checked the neighborhood Facebook group and found a thread buried under posts about lost cats and garage sales. Sure enough, others were complaining. A Lego set for a kid's birthday, a box of car parts, even a dog bed, all gone. All marked delivered. I felt like I was in a true crime podcast, piecing together clues in a quiet suburb that was anything but innocent. My anger turned to resolve. Whoever was doing this wasn't just stealing my stuff, they were stealing my trust in this community. I wasn't going to let them win. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, lit by the glow of my laptop, ordering a cheap decoy packager, $15 box of kitchen gadgets and researching hidden cameras. If Karen, or anyone else, thought they could keep getting away with this, they were about to learn a lesson they'd never forget. Enough was enough. I wasn't about to let some porch pirate turn my dream neighborhood into a crime scene. Sitting at my kitchen table that night, lit by the dim glow of my laptop, I hatched a plan to catch the thief red-handed. My blood was still boiling from the latest theft. Those gaming accessories weren't just stuff. They were my ticket to leveling up my YouTube streaming channel, where I'd been building a small but loyal audience. Losing them felt personal, like someone was laughing at my hard work. I wasn't just going to catch this thief. I was going to make sure they regretted ever stepping onto my porch. First, I needed bait. I hopped onto Amazon and ordered a decoy packager, $15 box of random kitchen gadgets, like spatulas and measuring cups. Nothing fancy enough to tempt a seasoned thief, but just enticing enough to look like a typical delivery. I imagined the thief's greedy hands snatching it, unaware they were about to be exposed. Next, I researched security cameras. I wasn't a tech genius, but I'd edited enough videos to know my way around gadgets. After scrolling through reviews, I settled on a small, Wi-Fi-enabled camera with motion detection and night vision. It was compact enough to hide in a potted plant on my porch, blending in like it was just another piece of decor. I spent an hour testing it, adjusting the angle to capture every inch of my doorstep. The app sent alerts straight to my phone, and I could watch live footage from anywhere. I felt like I was starring in my own detective show, setting a trap for a villain who didn't know they were being watched. But I couldn't do this alone. I called Mike, my neighbor across the street, who'd become my go-to guy for venting about Karen's HOA tyranny. Over a quick phone call, I spilled my plan. "Dude, I'm setting up a camera and ordering a decoy package," I said, my voice buzzing with excitement. "You in?" Mike didn't hesitate. "Heck yeah," he replied. "I'm tired of this thief messing with us. I'll order a decoy too. Let's make it impossible for them to resist." Mike chose a cheap set of sketch pencils, perfect for his graphic design side hustle. We agreed to coordinate delivery times to maximize our chances of catching the culprit in action. It felt like we were forming our own neighborhood crime-fighting duo, ready to take down the porch pirate. Next, I took a bigger step. I called the local post office to report the thefts, expecting a board clerk to brush me off. Instead, they patched me through to Agent Carter, a U.S. Postal Inspector with a voice like he'd just stepped out of a cop movie. "Mail theft is a federal crime," he said, calm but serious. "We take this seriously. I am already investigating similar cases in your area." My jaw dropped. The post office had its own detectives. Agent Carter asked for details, dates, tracking numbers. What was stolen? I sent him everything, including a hunch about Karen's suspicious behavior. "Don't confront anyone yet," he warned. "If you catch something on camera, send it to me. We'll handle the rest." I hung up, feeling like I'd just recruited the FBI to my team. Agent Carter wasn't just some desk jockey, he was out there, ready to pounce. To make the trap even tighter, I decided to spread the word carefully. I didn't want to tip off the thief, but I needed allies. I knocked on Sarah's door, the mom who'd lost her kid's Lego set. Over coffee in her cluttered living room, I shared my plan. "I think it's someone local," I whispered, glancing out her window at Karen's pristine house across the street. Sarah's eyes widened. "You think it's her?" she asked. I shrugged, not ready to point fingers but planting the seed. Sarah agreed to keep an eye out and report any suspicious activity. I also posted a vague message in the neighborhood Facebook group, "Anyone else missing packages?" Thinking of setting up a camera, I hoped it would spook the thief or at least make them think twice. As the delivery day approached, I couldn't sleep. I kept checking the camera app, imagining Karen or whoever sneaking onto my porch. I pictured her smug face, thinking she was untouchable. Little did she know, we were ready. Mike and I texted late into the night, hyping each other up like we were about to pull off a heist. The camera was set, the decoys were ordered, and Agent Carter was on standby. The trap was perfect, and I could feel the adrenaline pumping. Wasn't just about getting my stuff back, it was about justice. The anticipation was killing me. For 2 days, I was glued to my phone, checking the camera app every hour, like a kid waiting for Christmas. My heart raced every time a notification popped up, only to find it was just the mail carrier or a stray cat wandering across my porch. I'd spent so much time imagining the moment I'd catch the thief that I could practically see their shadow lurking in the twilight. Mike and I texted constantly, hyping each other up like we were detectives in a gritty crime drama. "Today's the day," he'd message, followed by a fist bump emoji. I was on edge, barely sleeping, my mind racing with images of my stolen gaming gear sitting in someone's garage, maybe even Karen's. The thought of her smug face, preaching community standards while swiping our packages, made my blood boil. I wasn't just after justice, I wanted to see her squirm. On the third day, at 3:27 p.m., my phone lit up with a motion alert. My hand shook as I opened the app, the live feed loading painfully slowly. And there she was, Karen, in her signature yoga pants, oversized sunglasses perched on her head like a crown, strolling onto my porch like she owned the place. My jaw hit the floor. The HOA queen, the woman who'd once fined me $25 for a non-compliant mailbox flag, was casually glancing left, then right, like a cartoon villain checking for witnesses. She bent down, grabbed my decoy package, a plain brown box of cheap kitchen gadgets, and tucked it under her arm as if it were her daily coffee order. She didn't even hesitate, her movements smooth and practiced, like she'd done this 100 times. I froze, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. "No way," I whispered, zooming in on the footage. It was her Karen Margaret Thompson, the neighborhood tyrant, caught red-handed. I rewatched the clip 3 times, my shock turning to a mix of triumph and disgust. The audacity. This was the woman who'd lectured us at HOA meetings about maintaining property values, who'd sent passive-aggressive emails about my lawn's unacceptable dandelions. And here she was, stealing my stuff like it was her side hustle. I paused the video on her face, her expression smug and oblivious, and felt a surge of vindication. I had her, but I needed to play this smart. I screenshotted the footage, my fingers trembling with excitement, and sent it to Agent Carter with a quick note. Caught her. It's Karen, the HOA president. My phone rang minutes later. Carter, his gravelly voice calm but intense. That's solid evidence, he said. Clear as day, but don't confront her yet. We need to make this airtight. I wanted to march across the street and bang on her door, demanding my gaming gear back, but his words grounded me. He was right, this wasn't just about me. This was about everyone she'd ripped off. I called Mike immediately, my voice practically shaking. With adrenaline, dude, it's Karen. I got her on video. I played the footage over speakerphone, and I could hear Mike's disbelief through the line. You're kidding me, he said, laughing. Miss Perfect. Stealing packages. This is too good. We spent the next half hour strategizing, replaying the video like it was the Zapruder film. Mike checked his own camera, but his decoy hadn't arrived yet. She's gonna hit mine next, he said confidently. Let's keep the cameras rolling. I also texted Sarah, the neighbor who'd lost her kid's Lego set, and shared a still from the footage without revealing too much. You're not gonna believe this, I wrote. She replied instantly, oh my god, is that who I think it is? Keep me posted. The neighborhood was about to get a wake-up call, and I was the one holding the megaphone. I spent the evening pacing my living room, replaying the footage and imagining Karen's downfall. How many packages had she taken? Was she hoarding them in her garage, selling them online, or worse opening them like some twisted Christmas? The thought made me sick, but also fueled my determination. Agent Carter texted me late that night. Good work. We're watching her house. Stay patient. I barely slept, my mind buzzing with the image of Karen's smug grab. This wasn't just about my stuff anymore, it was about exposing a hypocrite who'd terrorized our neighborhood for years. The next morning, I woke up with a knot in my stomach, the kind you get when you know something big is about to go down. Mike's decoy package was scheduled to arrive that afternoon, and I had a feeling Karen wouldn't resist. I checked my camera app obsessively, pacing my living room like a caged animal. Every creak of the floorboards made me jump, thinking it was another motion alert. I texted Mike, you ready for round 2? He replied with a thumbs up, and, she's toast. We weren't just catching a thief, we were about to expose the neighborhood's biggest hypocrite, and the anticipation was electric. At 2:15 p.m., my phone pinged again. I opened the app, and there was Karen, bold as ever, sauntering onto Mike's porch this time. She grabbed his decoy package, a small box of sketch pencils, and tucked it under her arm. Her movements so casual it was infuriating. Did she really think no one was watching? I forwarded the footage to Agent Carter, my hands trembling with a mix of rage and excitement. But what I didn't know was that Carter was already one step ahead. He'd been staking out Karen's house for days, parked in an unmarked gray van a block away, blending into the suburban scenery like a ghost. He'd seen her pattern sneaking packages into her garage under cover of dusk, sometimes even opening them on her driveway like she was unwrapping Christmas presents. He later told me she'd been listing items online, selling everything from electronics to kids' toys on shady marketplaces. The audacity was unreal. Carter called me at 3:30 p.m., his voice steady but charged with purpose. We've got enough, he said. We're moving in today. Stay put and don't tip her off. My heart raced. This was it, the moment of truth. I couldn't resist watching, so I grabbed my phone and positioned myself by my living room window, peeking through the blinds like a nosy neighbor. At 4 p.m., I saw it. 2 postal inspectors in plain clothes and a local police officer pulling up to Karen's pristine colonial-style house. The van's doors slid open silently, and Carter stepped out, a tall figure in a dark jacket, holding a clipboard that I knew wasn't for HOA violations. My pulse pounded as they marched up her walkway, their faces grim but determined. Karen answered the door in her usual yoga pants and sunglasses uniform, her smile wide and fake, like she was greeting a welcome guest. I could almost hear her syrupy voice. How can I help you, officers? But when Carter flashed his badge and handed her a warrant, her smile collapsed like a cheap lawn chair. I whipped out my phone and started recording through the window, careful to stay out of sight. This was YouTube gold, better than any scripted drama. The inspectors pushed past her, heading straight for her garage, while the cop kept her at the door. Karen's arms flailed, her voice rising in a panicked whine. This is a misunderstanding, she insisted, loud enough for me to hear across the street. I'm the HOA president. I keep this neighborhood safe. The irony was so thick I nearly laughed out loud. As they hauled out box after box, over 20 stolen packages, including my gaming gear and Mike's art supplies, and neighbors started poking their heads out. Sarah, the mom down the street, stood on her lawn, mouth agape. Tom, the guy who'd lost car parts, pulled into his driveway and did a double take. I texted Mike a play-by-play, my fingers flying. They're raiding her garage. She's freaking out. He replied, send me pics. I snapped a few stills from my video, careful to blur faces for legal reasons, knowing this footage would make my channel explode. The inspectors found packages stacked floor to ceiling in Karen's garage, some opened, some still sealed, like a thief's treasure hoard. Carter later told me she'd been targeting delivery schedules using her HOA Neighborhood Watch app, thinking she was untouchable, but she hadn't counted on the U.S. Postal Service having its own ninja squad as they loaded the evidence into the van. Karen's protests turned to tears, then silence. She stood on her lawn, arms crossed, sunglasses off, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. For once, the Queen of Pinewood Estates had no clipboard, no power, no control. I felt a rush of satisfaction, tempered by disbelief. How had she thought she'd get away with this? The neighborhood was about to change forever, and I had a front row seat. As the postal inspector's van pulled away from Karen's house, loaded with over 20 stolen packages, a strange calm settled over Pinewood Estates. The neighborhood, usually alive with the hum of lawnmowers and kids' laughter, felt eerily quiet, like it was holding its breath. Karen stood on her lawn, no longer the HOA tyrant with a clipboard and a smirk, but a defeated figure, her yoga pants and sunglasses unable to hide her humiliation. She was arrested for mail theft, a federal crime that Agent Carter later explained could carry up to 7 years in prison and hefty fines. I stood at my window, still clutching my phone, the video of her downfall safely saved. This wasn't just justice, it was a reckoning, and I felt like I'd just won the Super Bowl of neighborhood drama. Agent Carter called me later that evening, his gravelly voice tinged with satisfaction. We recovered 23 packages from her garage, he said. Your gaming gear, your neighbor's art supplies, a kid's Lego set, car parts, you name it. She was running a small operation, selling stuff online for quick cash. I was floored. Karen, the woman who'd once fined me for a non-compliant mailbox flag, had turned her garage into a thief's warehouse. Among the recovered items was my headset and controller, still in their original packaging, untouched. Mike got his pencils back, and Sarah cried tears of relief when her son's Lego set was returned just in time for his birthday. The neighborhood Facebook group exploded with messages, shock, outrage, and a few I knew it. Posts from those who'd long suspected Karen's holier-than-thou act was a front. The fallout was swift and brutal. That night, an emergency HOA meeting was called at the community center. I didn't usually attend these snooze fests, but this one was unmissed. The room buzzed with whispers as neighbors packed the folding chairs, some clutching coffee mugs, others scrolling furiously on their phones. Tom, the guy who'd lost car parts, stood up and demanded Karen's immediate removal, rock ouster, as HOA president. The vote was unanimous. She was out, effective immediately. A new president, a quiet retiree named Linda, was elected on the spot. People cheered, not just for Linda, but for the end of Karen's reign of terror. I overheard Sarah whispering to Mike, I hope she gets what she deserves. The room nodded in agreement, and I couldn't help but smile. Karen's empire had crumbled in a single afternoon. For me, the real victory was personal. I'd been building my YouTube channel, posting gaming streams and tech reviews, but this story was something else. I spent hours editing the footage from my window, carefully blurring faces to keep it legal, and posted a 10-minute video titled HOA Karen Caught Stealing Packages. Postal Inspector Busts Her. I narrated the whole saga, from the missing packages to the sting operation, layering in dramatic music and close-ups of the decoy box. By morning, the video had 10,000 views. By the end of the week, it was pushing 100,000. Comments flooded in. No way, this is real. Karen got karma'd. My subscriber count tripled, and I started getting sponsorship offers. Mike, who'd been skeptical about my YouTube thing, high-fived me over pizza that weekend, laughing, dude, you're famous now. But it wasn't just about the views. For the first time since moving to Pinewood, I felt like I belonged. Neighbors stopped by to thank me, some even apologizing for not taking the thefts seriously sooner. Sarah baked me cookies, and Tom offered to help install a new security system. The neighborhood felt lighter, like a cloud had lifted. Karen, I later heard, was facing serious consequences, fines, community service, and possible jail time, depending on the judge. Her house went up for sale a month later, and she moved away, leaving Pinewood Estates to heal. Reflecting on it all, I realized this was more than catching a thief. It was about standing up to a bully who'd controlled us through fear and intimidation. I'd gotten my stuff back, but more importantly, I'd helped free our neighborhood from her grip. As I unboxed my gaming gear, setting it up for my next stream, I felt a surge of pride. A $15 decoy and a hidden camera had taken down the tyrant, and I had the footage to prove it. This was a story my viewers and my neighbors would never forget.